The loudest voice isn't always the one leading. Sometimes it's the quiet storm that shifts the whole sky. Hey Sigma ladies, welcome back to The Sigma Lady, the digital zone where quiet power speaks the loudest. Today we're slicing open a truth that flips the whole idea of leadership on its head. Why the Sigma female is born a leader, but deeply resents being in charge. Let's get real. We're not talking about the alpha cliché or the boss babe mold. This is about the silent strategist, the woman who refuses the spotlight, yet somehow rewires the whole system. This episode isn't for the faint of heart. It's for the ones who feel like outliers, yet somehow always end up at the center of gravity. If you vibe with real talk and raw insight, hit that subscribe button, not just to follow, but to evolve. And hey, if you want to fuel more content like this, buy me a coffee using the link in the description and top pinned comment. Every sip powers another truth bomb. 1. The shadow crown. The Sigma female doesn't audition for power. She doesn't chase thrones or titles. Instead, she radiates leadership, not because she wants it, but because people naturally orbit her. This woman can be in a room full of alphas, influencers, and voices fighting for dominance, and she'll still command attention without saying a word. Why? Because she doesn't need it. And that's exactly what makes her magnetic. The shadow crown isn't worn with pride, it's worn in protest. The Sigma knows that leadership, the real kind, is heavy. It's about consequences, decisions, and often walking alone. She doesn't want that burden. But when things fall apart, people still turn to her. She leads with presence. Her silence speaks strategy. Her stillness screams authority. While others perform leadership, loud voices, high energy, big gestures, the Sigma observes, calculates, and quietly reroutes the entire dynamic. Her leadership is born from internal code, not external noise. And because she didn't seek the power, she uses it with care. She doesn't lead to dominate. She leads to fix, to correct, to transform. When she sees injustice or disorganization, her instincts override her desire to stay hidden. That's when the crown appears, not as a choice, but as a necessity. She doesn't brag, she doesn't boast, and that's what makes her dangerous. 2. Allergic to authority games. Traditional leadership is a performance. There are ladders to climb, egos to manage, and games to play. The Sigma female has no interest in this. Authority games bore her. They feel fake, manipulative, and hollow. She doesn't need to win people over or dominate them to feel powerful. Her power comes from authenticity, autonomy, and insight, not from manipulating people or climbing artificial hierarchies. The workplace politics, the pecking order, the performative meetings, the Sigma checks out. She's often misunderstood because she refuses to play those games. She's not rebellious for the sake of rebellion. She simply doesn't see the point of pretending. This avoidance isn't weakness, it's focus. She has no time for social charades. While others waste energy posturing, she's getting things done behind the scenes. She's building systems, fixing problems, and moving things forward, with zero need for applause. People in charge often feel threatened by her. Why? Because she doesn't need their validation. She works outside of their currency. Praise, power, promotion. She's already self-powered, and that's the paradox. Because she refuses to engage in the authority games, people start to trust her more. Her refusal to play makes her the most trustworthy person in the room. 3. The lone strategist instinct. The Sigma female doesn't lead from the front. She leads from the edge. Her power lies not in shouting instructions, but in crafting the entire blueprint. While others are busy trying to manage people, she's analyzing patterns, finding holes in the system, and quietly designing a better one. She thrives in solitude, not because she's antisocial, but because clarity lives in silence. In group dynamics, there's noise, hierarchy, emotion, politics, but in solitude, there's vision. The Sigma strategizes in the quiet, not the chaos. Unlike traditional leaders who need teams to validate their ideas or give them direction, the Sigma is self-sufficient. She can build, create, and execute without waiting for consensus. That's not arrogance, it's efficiency. She doesn't second-guess her inner compass. She watches from a distance, processes faster than she speaks, and only steps in when she knows her intervention will shift the entire game board. And when she does move, it's never impulsive, it's precise. That's why her leadership doesn't look like leadership, it looks like mastery. Her brain is wired for strategy. She's a systems thinker, a long-term planner, a quiet disruptor. She doesn't want to manage people, she wants to reshape how they think. She's not trying to fix the machine, she's building the next one. And when people realize her impact, it's always in hindsight. They realize she was 3 steps ahead the whole time. That's the Sigma's edge. She leads by design, not desire. 4. Control is not the mission. Here's where the Sigma female completely breaks the mold. She doesn't want control. And in a world obsessed with power, that makes her a glitch in the matrix. Most leaders are addicted to control over people, outcomes, and systems. They want compliance, recognition, and the sense that everything bends to their will. But the Sigma female, she wants freedom, hers and yours too. She sees control as a trap. The more you need to manage and direct others, the more you're actually enslaved to their behavior. That's not leadership, that's micromanagement. And Sigma doesn't have time for that. She leads when it serves a purpose, not when it serves her ego. She wants flow, not force. She prefers trust over supervision. Give her the autonomy to move how she moves, and she'll take your entire mission to the next level. Try to box her in, and you'll lose her completely. The Sigma doesn't need to know everything. She doesn't obsess over perfection or rules. She moves with intuition, with instinct, and with discipline that comes from within, not imposed from above. What looks like detachment is actually radical clarity. She's not checking out. She's choosing what not to control. That discipline to not interfere when it's unnecessary is what makes her rare. She's not the ruler. She's the rewirer. She sees outdated models of control and quietly deconstructs them, not to destroy, but to rebuild something freer, cleaner, smarter. To the outside world, it looks like she hates leadership, but what she really hates is authority without soul. And that's why when she leads, it changes the game, not just the players. 5. The unchosen commander Sigma females don't campaign for leadership. They don't raise their hand, rally a crowd, or beg to be noticed. But somehow, leadership finds them, over and over again. She could be sitting at the back of the room, minding her business, and people will still turn to her when things fall apart. It's not charisma. It's not charm. It's presence. Quiet, grounded, commanding presence. The Sigma doesn't compete to lead. She doesn't need the spotlight or the badge. But the minute things get messy, in a project, a team, a crisis, people instinctively look her way. Why? Because she's not emotionally flustered. She's calm, rational, focused. She sees through the fog and cuts straight to what matters. Even when she avoids taking charge, she still sets the tone. People follow her not because she asked, but because they trust her energy. She leads by example, by integrity, and by insight, not by barking orders. It's not unusual for a Sigma to be in the room with a designated leader who's panicking or overcompensating, while everyone's quietly gravitating toward her. They're waiting for her to say something, anything that makes sense of the chaos. And when she finally speaks, it's like hitting a reset button. This unintentional leadership often annoys her. She didn't sign up for it. She didn't want the weight. But she understands that being capable sometimes means stepping up, even if you didn't ask to. She doesn't see leadership as a prize. She sees it as a problem-solving role. And when the problem needs solving, the Sigma solves it. She doesn't need applause. She needs results. That's why she's the unchosen commander. Not picked, just impossible to ignore. 6. The burnout radar. Most people burn out because they don't know their limits. The Sigma female. She senses the burnout before it even arrives. She sees it lurking in the meetings that should have been emails, in the draining responsibilities disguised as opportunities, and in the heavy load of leading people who refuse to lead themselves. She doesn't just hate being in charge, she sees the cost, and she chooses freedom over exhaustion. She's not lazy, she's precise. She values energy conservation. She knows when to step in and when to pull out. While others run themselves into the ground trying to manage everything, she focuses only on the essentials. She cuts the fluff. She doesn't try to impress. She stays effective, not overextended. This sensitivity to burnout is why she avoids traditional leadership positions. She knows what happens when power becomes obligation, when leading turns into babysitting, when vision gets buried under red tape and damage control. She has a natural radar for overload. The moment things start to feel performative or bureaucratic, she checks out. Not because she's quitting, but because she's preserving her fire for what actually matters. That's what sets her apart. The Sigma doesn't burn out, she opts out. Before the system drains her dry, she quietly exits and repositions. She's not afraid to start over, rebuild, or reinvent. That's her edge. And when she does take the lead, it's never from a place of ego or obligation. It's because she sees a way forward that no one else does, and she has the clarity and restraint to walk it alone if she has to. 7. The tactical resistor. The Sigma female doesn't resist leadership out of fear. She resists it on purpose. It's a tactical decision. She sees how easily people get trapped in the image of leadership, constantly performing strength, control, authority, and she wants no part of it. While others chase positions, she questions the entire structure. Titles, ranks, pecking orders, these are illusions to her. They don't define impact. They often disguise insecurity. That's why she stays just outside the lines, not to be rebellious, but to remain effective. You'll never see her salivating over a promotion or angling for a corner office. That's not her game. She's about mastery, not management. She wants ownership of her time, her ideas, her rhythm. Leadership, in the traditional sense, often strips that away, so she resists it intentionally. But here's the twist. She's not passive, she's just strategic. If she sees a system that needs redesigning, she'll quietly take control, not by asking for permission, but by reworking the rules from within. She resists leadership only when it becomes about ego instead of impact. She doesn't care if people think she's not ambitious enough. She knows exactly what she's doing. By refusing to be boxed in by someone else's definition of success, she keeps her creative power intact. That's her advantage, and she guards it like a hawk. The Sigma female's resistance is not weakness. It's a sign of deep clarity. She knows who she is, and she won't compromise that identity just to sit at someone else's table. If a seat isn't built for her, she builds a whole new room. 8. Leadership as energy, not position. This is the most misunderstood truth about the Sigma female. She doesn't need a title to lead. She is the leadership. Leadership for her is not a job or a label. It's a frequency. It's in how she moves, speaks, and thinks. It's in her tone, her timing, her boundaries. Her leadership is embedded in every interaction, not just the ones that look official. You won't always notice it at first. She doesn't bark commands or try to be the loudest voice. But over time, people begin to follow her rhythm. They lean in when she talks. They reference her perspective in decisions. They adjust around her. That's leadership, pure and quiet. She leads by energy. When she's grounded, others get clear. When she's decisive, others align. When she leaves, people feel it. Her influence isn't loud, it's magnetic. It doesn't demand attention. It reshapes the room. And this is why she avoids traditional leadership roles, because they often require playing a part, and she refuses to play. She leads better by being herself, unfiltered, observant, strategic. She doesn't need a title to validate what she already is. Her leadership is about alignment, not authority, and that's what makes it unshakable. You can strip the position from a Sigma female, but you can't strip her presence. She'll still lead, in conversations, in cultures, in ideas, without ever stepping on a podium. Because real leadership isn't given, it's embodied, and she's been carrying it since day one. There you have it, Sigma ladies. The full breakdown of why you were born to lead, yet wired to resist the typical mold of being in charge. You don't chase titles, you carry impact, you don't seek control, you move with clarity. You don't demand to be followed, yet people follow anyway. This world is noisy with leaders performing, but you're building, reshaping, outthinking. You're not a leader by title, you're the silent storm that moves mountains. If this episode gave you a mirror, a push, or a whole mindset reset, buy me a coffee using the link in the description or the first pinned comment. That little gesture helps fuel more bold, raw content like this. Subscribe to stay in the orbit. Share it with the ones who lead from the shadows. And as always, keep your fire clean, your focus sharp, and your presence untouchable. This has been the Sigma Lady, signing off.